Hello, my fellow human light beings. This is Mahadeva, the Thunder Wizard. Wow, what's going on there? Oh, let me just close this for one moment. There we go. This is Mahadeva, the Thunder Wizard. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to go back to basics. And I'm going to share with you the most important thing you need to know. So I'm not going to be reading from the book. This is the title of my book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. But we are going to be talking about the most important aspects of it. In case you have the book, this will be sort of like a study guide material. It'll still be a very powerful and educational video, even if you don't have the book, which you can get at michaelwilliamdenny.com. You see there. There is only one commandment. There aren't 10 commandments. The monotheist religion wants to tell you that there are 10 commandments. And if you don't follow those 10 commandments, you will make God very unhappy. And if God is unhappy, according to the biblical, the Old Testament, if you don't, literally what he says is you have to follow every single one of his commands to the letter. And if you don't follow every single one of his commandments to the letter, you will be cursed for generations. There will be boils on your skin. He goes through all these horrible, horrible curses. He doesn't say, if you don't try, if you don't do your best, if you don't, he says, if you don't follow all of my commandments to the letter, he says, then you hate me. And then he goes on to say, if you hate me, I hate you. And then he tells about how the way he's going to destroy you. And then, of course, the Christian religion comes along and says, well, that's impossible. Nobody can follow that. It's just absolutely crazy. Nobody can meet God's perfect standards. So instead, what God's going to do is he's going to manifest himself, in his quote-unquote perfect son, and then he's going to murder his son. And if you believe in the Trinity, he's going to murder himself. And then he's going to take out all of his rage onto his son, take the blood of his son and smear it on you. And if you choose to then believe in him, then he will be able to tolerate his rage towards you and you'll be able to live. So if that sounds like fun for you, please, by all means, go right ahead. There's no shortage of churches out there to share that beautiful message with you. But the idea that we have to follow God's commandments is not something I like at all. And I don't think you should. I mean, this is the idea that we have to follow anybody else's commands for us is repugnant to me. However, what I have learned is that there is one commandment. Now, that's the good news. There's only one. And the other good news, unlike the religious version where you have to do things perfectly and then don't worry about it, he's going to save you, but only if you believe in him. And then you find out later that you have to believe in him in a certain way and do all kinds of things. And then he won't say to you, get away from me, I never knew you. Because I don't know, that's in the New Testament too, where in the judgment, people go up to Jesus and said, I believed in you, I did everything that you said, I did all kinds of things in your name. And he says, get away from me, I never knew you. So, that sounds like a really challenging place to be. But in this instance, the one commandment is actually a very doable thing. Now, if you don't do the one commandment, you don't have to worry. You will be fine. The one commandment is only something that is important in the third dimension if you want to be successful and happy and healthy. In terms of your soul, there is nothing that can harm your soul. There's nothing you can do, no matter how horrible or evil you are. Your soul is always going to be perfect and you will always be in bliss as long as you're not in the third dimension. So the real question here is, do you want to be happy, successful, prosperous, spiritually empowered in the third dimension? If so, there is one thing you must do. If you don't do this one thing, you can be guaranteed of varying levels of misery. unhappiness, loneliness, poverty, confusion, illness, psychological problems. These are all result of one and one thing only. And it's whether or not you do this one thing. As I said, the one thing is very simple, but it might be a little bit challenging for some. So the reason why we're talking about this is because of my recent experiences, which have woken me up to my failings. So let me first apologize to everybody. I have been failing you as a guide, mentor, example, teacher. I have been failing you. And the way that I have been failing you is that I have not been teaching you what is most important. And what is most important is that you are an autonomous, infinite being. And as an autonomous, infinite being, only you can create your reality. Again, this is different from religion, where it says Jesus will do it all for you. And that, unfortunately, couldn't be further from the truth. It's a nice idea. But that idea has caused so much pain. And, in terms of my frustration with not being able to help people get beyond their blocks, that's the main issue. The main issue is that they're waiting for something or somebody to come along which will magically fix them, which will magically do the thing for them, even if they don't know what it is. Again, look, there's a reason why I'm not the most popular person on YouTube. There's a reason why channels that focus on really superficialized versions of The Secret, why they have thousands of followers. There was a guy I used to watch, because I would watch other channels and I would try and figure out, because they were so successful. I was like, what is it about them? I want to know what they're doing, because I'm listening to them and I don't hear anything. I want to hear them. I'm assuming they have something amazing to share, because they have millions of followers. And during the live stream, which doesn't happen on my live stream all that often, as these people are blathering on about literally nothing, I'm still going, what are they talking about? People are giving them $50, $100, $25 in the live stream. Oh, thank you for the $50. Thank you. And at the end of it, they've made hundreds of dollars just on the live stream. And I'm still waiting to figure out what they're talking about. Well, I had to accept the reality of what was being presented to me, which is people are being placated. And either your childish narcissism is being placated, or you're being abused. That's another thing. Teachers will come and they will, like the pastors in church that come and abuse you, tell you how sinful you are, how horrible you are, how angry God is, and how righteous He is in His indignation and your sins. And I can remember this one. Here's a good, forgive my language, here's a really good mind fuck that used to happen when I would go to church. Pastor would talk about Jesus saying, if you have the faith of the size of a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, move from one place to the other, and it would obey you. And so the idea is, if you have faith, it's not so much that God would do it, it's that you have to have the faith, and your faith will move mountains. And so he would go on and on about that. And of course, like me and everybody else, as a little kid, I would take it literally. And they'd say, literally, you could move that mountain, Jesus says. And Jesus is speaking God's word. You could move that mountain if you had enough faith. And I would go, I don't have that. I don't believe I can choose to, I'm just being honest with myself, internally. This is a dialogue. I don't think, and I'd feel guilty. Wow. And I would take it as though nobody has that kind of faith, because then the pastor would ask, so do you truly have faith? Do you have faith even the size of a mustard seed? And I would say to myself, no, if that's what I don't have it. I don't have that faith. So that that kind of abuse, where you would be shamed into not feeling good enough. I'm not here to tell you that. I'm here to tell you that you are good enough. I'm here to tell you that you literally can do anything you can possibly imagine, including shifting to a completely different frequency in a completely different reality. You have that ability. I have that ability. But just in the third dimension, if what you want is to create your perfect world, you want enough money, you want enough love, you want health, you want to be free of disease. I mean, here's the three things people want. People want money. That means a lot of people either are poor or feel that they're poor. People want to be healthy. That means people either want to be healthy or they have legitimate illness. Real serious illnesses. And the third one is they want love. They want to be loved and they want to be seen. That's why these law of attraction channels that have millions of views and people dropping $50 and $25, because here's the message, which is what I'm not going to tell you today. However, the message I'm going to tell you is going to be more empowering to you if you can hear it. And more importantly, if you can do it, which you can. I'm telling you, everybody here, unlike when I was a kid in church, unlike when the pastor would say, do you have the faith of a mustard seed to move the mountain? And I would say to myself, no, I don't. And that's just, I give up. It's just impossible. There's no way I can do that. Well, I'm here to tell you that the one thing that I'm telling you you're going to have to do, every single person listening to me can do it if you choose to. The real question is why? What is it that would block you from choosing to do it? I have a big list of things. We are going to talk about all of it, so don't worry. I'm going to explain it to you. Forgive me for droning on and on. I sort of forget where my point was, but anyway, you get where I'm going with all of this. So before we get into this, if you're new to the channel, let me just do my new little ad here thing. Question your reality. Online classes and personal mentorship at thunderwizard.com. Thunderwizard.com is going to be completely transformed. Right now, that is where you go to subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. Everything. I'm going to move everything except for the YouTube videos that don't have a practice involved. Everything else is going to be moved over there. And so it'll either be part of the subscription, varying subscription packages, or it'll be as a single product. So the great thing about that is you may not want to subscribe, but you may want to, for instance, do, where is it? Do I have it up here? You can go to Patreon, there it is. Go to patreon.com, Thunderwizard. Actually, you want to go to thunderwizard.com. That'll take you directly to my Patreon page, thunderwizard.com. There's the Thunderwizard page. I'm showing you a screenshot, and this was before. There's at least a couple other products on there, but that's the shop. So if you click on shop, you'll see Celestial Qigong, the Huar Mantra, which people are starting to buy. I've already gotten, in one day, 3 people have bought it. Thank you very much to those of you who have done that. And there's the Summoning the Immortals is also there. There's going to be the 5-element Maoshan practices, and a bunch of other stuff is going to be there. So the point of that is that you can subscribe and you can get the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. You can get the advanced guided interdimensional meditation, the Maoshan practices that already aren't on the free channel. And, or if you don't want to subscribe, you can get, whatever practice that really excites you, you can just get that and use that and keep coming back. And that's because, how I said earlier, the way that I have been failing you is I have been I keep going out of my way to create more practices and, putting them free on the channel for free. And I was told, a couple of times, yeah, I'm going to stop paying to work with you because I have everything already that you have. It's all out there for free. I can just go use it. And I'm going to go, there's other people that have stuff that aren't for free, and I don't know what that is. I'm going to go pay for that. And then the next day I got an email saying that I was overdrawn on my bank account after I'd been spending 2 weeks, spending probably 12 hours a day, uploading, making videos, editing videos, making new thumbnails, and working my tail off. And then I'm being told that I don't have enough money to pay my bills. And I realized not only do people not value something if you give it away for free, they don't value it, but they don't learn it. And I learned that yesterday on the live stream. I was talking with people on the live stream who've been on the channel, who've done the practices, but they haven't followed my directions. And this is the most important thing. We're going to get to the most important direction today, but let me just say to you, here's what I say to people all the time on the channel. And I still say, every single person that has worked with me and followed all of my directions consistently and to the letter, every single one of them, their lives have transformed. They've gotten out of debt. They've healed themselves from massive issues in life, illnesses. They're not the same people they were sometimes months before. The operative phrase is followed all of my directions. That means they take the actions that I suggest to them. So my mistake, and I apologize to you for this is my codependence. My mistake was I thought if I just flooded the channel, even the free channel, with as many practices, and if you did the practices, you would then be able to take the actions. And I've come to find out that even if you do the practices, this commandment won't kick in if you don't follow the directions. So I have a book of this same name, which you can get, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. And as I've said, it is the most important book I've ever written. It's a booklet, and I've said, forever, treat it like a Bible, memorize it. But you have to do what's in it. You can't just read it. What the law of attraction, and by the way, the law of attraction learned this from religion. What the law of attraction wants to tell you is all you have to do is just summon up the right feeling, and then things will come to you. They even say that things like money and prosperity and health are these things that are floating out there in the universe, and if you create the right emotion, that will create the frequency, and then they'll come flowing to you like a magnet. They'll stick to you, and then $1 million will show up, and all that kind of stuff. And that's only partially true. That's only half true. But the reason why it's so popular is because people don't want to take actions. In fact, there are videos. I got blocked, if you want to know this. I got blocked on YouTube probably 4 or 5 years ago. Because, I followed the rules, which you can do. Take somebody's video, only play a few seconds, analyze it, talk about it. I did that with one of, you know who she is, the woman who channels supposedly all these different aliens under one, biblical name. And I took one of her videos where she said, you don't have to take action. All you have to do is just have the right feelings. And if you have the right feelings, everything will come to you. And of course, she has millions of followers, and people spend thousands of dollars to go on cruises with her, where she says to them, you don't have to take action, you just have to screw up the right feeling. And if you do that, everything will be okay. Don't examine yourself, don't take any actions. And more importantly, don't take don't analyze if what you're trying to manifest is what you truly want. Don't do that. Just screw up the right feeling and it'll come to you. I had a student a while ago tell me they were going to stop working with me because they heard somebody else say that. Somebody else told them, you know, because I was saying to this person, listen, you got to start taking some actions or you're going to be in real trouble here real quick. This is just, you know, that's just a fact. You got to do something. And they said, somebody else just said, all I have to do is just be happy and have faith and it'll all be okay. And so thank you. And they left. Now, I don't know. Maybe it worked for them. Maybe it didn't. But what I say to you, and I will continue to say to you, is this one thing. If every single person who follows my suggestions, which means take the specific actions I suggest and do them consistently, every single person who's done that, their life has transformed. Now, my codependence is that I've been wanting to fix you. I've been wanting to do my version of Zohar the Magnificent, who gives you the law of attraction and says, here, just have this feeling and it'll all be okay. And my version was, do these practices, the energy will do whatever, and then it'll all be okay. But then I'm finding out people do the practices, the energy comes, and they still aren't following the directions that in this book, the directions in this book. If you do exactly what I say in this book and you do it consistently, things will change. Bear in mind, I have never once said, as long as you get to a happy place, you'll be okay. I've never once said that. And let me be clear, one of the things I've also said about enlightenment, I don't buy into the idea of enlightenment, especially now. I don't know, I may be narcissistic here and delusional, but I think there's a very good chance I have gone further into higher dimensional interactions with light beings, perhaps than many, if not most, people on planet Earth in the history of the human race. And I say that because the levels of bliss, the levels of amazingness, as I say that, I'm getting energies. So who knows if that's them saying, yep, that's right. I don't know. I'm not attached to that. It's not an ego thing for me. My point is that I've been to places in the multiverse that you may not believe yet if you haven't been there. And the levels of bliss have been amazing, but my humanity has not left me. Every time I come back into my physical body, the same human garbage comes up. All of the same programming, the same responses, the same feelings. You know, I was a pretty screwed up kid, you know, and that damaged me and, you know, and programmed me in all kinds of ways. That hasn't gone away. My life has gotten a lot better. Everything in my life has gotten magnificently better. I'm still human. That has never stopped. And the idea that, unfortunately, Buddhism started teaching this, and then the revealed religions, Christianity, and so people have this idea that enlightenment means that you're free from all of your uncomfortable feelings. And so that's what people are going after. That's why they think the law of attraction is enlightenment. Because when Zohar the Magnificent on her cruise ship says to you that all you have to do is just be in a happy place and happy things will happen to you, it's a lie. It's just a downright lie. It's not true. But it works because that's what people want. They want to be free of their discomfort. They want to be free of their pain, their loneliness, their sadness. They want to be free of the feelings. Every time somebody asks me the same question, the most popular question people ask me is, how do I get over my fear? What they want is they want to know, can you give me a pill which will make the feelings go away? Their assumption is if the feelings go away, then I will act appropriately, which is not true. It's not. So enlightenment has nothing to do with being free of pain. Sorry to tell you. I do believe once we get out of the third dimension, we will be free of pain. So we'll find out if I'm right about that or not. I do believe that the pain and the difficulty we experience is a third dimensional thing. It's not something that happens out there, at least not to this degree. So while we're here, there is no magic pill that will take your horrible feelings away. It doesn't exist. If you follow the actions, the prescribed actions, which I am going to share with you in just a second, if you follow the prescribed actions regardless of your feelings, the negative feelings will begin to heal. They will become less and less over time. But I don't believe you'll be free of them in this third dimension. I do believe that if you were to get to the frequency where you were completely free of that, you would completely shift out of this reality altogether. More will be revealed on all of that. So my point is, it's not about getting rid of your feelings. So listen, if what you want me to tell you is the one thing that's going to get rid of all of your bad feelings, feel free to stop watching this video right now. Feel free to decide not to work with me, because I won't be able to help you. But if you're willing, if you are willing to be self-examining, if you are willing to take this one action, regardless of how frightening, difficult, and painful it might be for you to do, and no matter how frequently you have to do it, if you are willing to take this one action for the rest of your life, I can guarantee you, you will begin to heal from all of your woes. You will be prosperous. You will be physically healthy. You will be emotionally healthy. You will be spiritually healthy. And more importantly, the light beings will be delighted, and you will be able to work with them. You want to be able to work with the light beings? If you hear me talking about it and you say, I want what he's got, well, you got to do what I've done. And that's just a very powerful saying. If you want what I have, you got to do what I do. So I tell you about all the things that I'm doing. I have a teacher that I work with. I have a group of people that I work with. And I listen to them, and when they call me on my bullshit. Do you have somebody that you work with? If not, you're not doing what I do. If you're not doing the 12 steps to 5D, I do the 12 steps to 5D on a daily basis. If you're not doing the 12 steps to 5D, you're not doing what I do. If you want what I have, you got to do what I do. That's the message. I've never said, if you want what I have, you got to feel how I feel. I hope you never feel how I feel most of the time. I hope you feel better than I do a lot of the time. But I wouldn't trade the success and the health, and especially my spiritual experiences, I wouldn't trade that for anything that anybody has. No amount of money, no amount of fame, no amount of sex, no amount of relationships, no amount of any of that could even come close to what I get from that. So if you want what I have, you got to do what I do. And the good news is you don't have to do it perfectly. There isn't any perfection. But you must take action. One thing that was so frustrating to me the other day was that somebody who'd done the practices, this was a wake-up for me, done the practices, read this book. But after talking, I came to realize that they hadn't taken the actions I suggest in the book. Or worse yet, they didn't know how to take the actions, which means you got to work with me. You got to become an apprentice. You got to get a session with me. We can hash it out. This is also something I guarantee. If you don't know what your soul desire is, and you have a 1-hour session with me, I guarantee you by the end of that 1-hour session, you will know exactly what it is your soul desire is and what you're supposed to do. Whether or not you have the chutzpah to do it, that is a whole other subject, and I don't have any control over that. But I guarantee you that. These are the things I guarantee you. But one thing I know I don't guarantee you is that you'll be free of your pain, your fear, your human frailty. That this is part of being in 3D. And I can't, as much as I want to snap my fingers and take that away from you. So far, I'm not able to do it. I'm working on it. Maybe in a few months I'll be able to do that, but for right now, I don't have that ability. So, we're going to go ahead and get into the list here, and we'll talk more about The one thing you need to do. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and take a look here. Alright, so the shamanic secret commandment to a perfect life, the necessary assumptions to make the shift. So the one thing I can give to you is, again, I'm not going to give you a feeling, right? Zohar the Magnificent on her cruise ship, whether she says it or not, the insinuation is she's going to give you a feeling, which will get rid of and make everything happen for you. That I can't do, to the best of my knowledge. But what I can do is I can share with you assumptions. So why are assumptions so important? This again comes back to critical thinking. Critical thinking says that everybody has an emotional attachment and an emotional reaction. Whenever somebody like me comes and gives you an assumption, if I tell you that ETs never abduct, only aliens, which are human beings, abduct, if you have an emotional reaction, you want to fight with me about that, that means you have some kind of emotional attachment to the idea of aliens actually abducting you, and whatever that is, I don't know, but that prevents you from hearing what I said. So your emotions are driving your assumptions and your beliefs. Your assumptions and your beliefs dictate your actions. So here is an assumption that Christianity has given you, as well as the narrative that we have in this world, as well as the third dimension itself. And that assumption is, if you get rid of all of your uncomfortable feelings, you'll be able to take action. First off, that's not actually true. But the assumption is that you have to get rid of your uncomfortable feelings. So analyze that with yourself. Any one of you who wants to say to me, and listen, I've asked these same questions. I'm no different than you. But if you've asked the questions, how can I get over my fear? The assumption underneath that is, if I get rid of my fear, I'll be able to take the required action. And that is false. That is a false assumption. So people spend their entire life trying to get rid of their fears and their emotions, and ironically, it just deepens them and makes them worse. This is why people do drugs. This is why people drink alcohol. This is why people are addicted to sex. This is why people are addicted to porn. This is why people are addicted to gambling. It's why they're addicted to video games. This is why people, can't stop, get out of bad relationships. They can't not follow their parents' ridiculous, demands on them. This is why people do that. They're trying to get over an uncomfortable feeling. People who start to, they become, they become whatever. They work on Wall Street because their dad worked on Wall Street, and dad said, you're going to do the family business, you're going to work on Wall Street. And you don't want to. The last thing you want to do is work on Wall Street. You grew up with that. But you can't overcome the desire to please your dad. You can't overcome the feeling that you'll be a worthless piece of crap if you don't do what he did. And so in order to get rid of that feeling that's telling you you're a piece of crap if you don't work on Wall Street, you go work on Wall Street. So you let the feeling control your actions, and you let the feeling control everything. And that starts from the assumption that if I get rid of this feeling, I'll then be okay and I'll be able to act the way that I want. And that's false. The other assumption that you operate from is, this feeling is really awful. I can't do anything different. And I've seen this happen. I've situations where, this is a real common one, somebody wants love and attention, and maybe they've gone through a tragedy in their life and they want their friends to come over and give them love, give them attention. If they've been in the hospital, they want somebody to come and wash their clothes and make soup for them. Who wouldn't want that? But people are out doing their own thing. They don't know that. And so this person ends up alone by themselves and nobody comes to take care of them. And then they're furious because these people, I do so much for everybody, but nobody's there for me. And literally all you have to do is just ask the question, well, did you ask for help? And they blow up. I shouldn't have to ask for anything. And then, well, just ask. I can't, is the response, which is a lie. You can. It's very painful. It's very difficult, but you know, the amount of energy that comes out of your mouth to say, how dare you not take care of me? 1/10 of that could be, hey, I just got out of the hospital. Could you go to, get me some food and bring it over? Oh my God, I didn't know. Yes, I'm going to call a bunch of people. We're going to clean your apartment for you. We're going to cook you some food. We'll take care of you. I mean, they would love to do that, but how are they going to do it? You don't ask. But God forbid that you say to them, take an action like, did you ask for help? And they say, because they have a false assumption, because they think the feeling is more powerful, they say, I can't. So they want everybody to be codependent and figure out what you need before you need it. And then nobody wants to be around that. And you go, well, no wonder you're all alone. So the assumption that the feeling stops you, no matter how horrible, you're addicted to whatever. You're addicted to crack and there's a crack pipe right in front of you. The impulse is so overwhelming and you feel like you can't resist it. Well, the truth is you can. It's not going to be you're going to go through some really nasty withdrawals, but you can refuse to pick it up. That's an action. So you have to start with the assumption that feelings and impulses are not more powerful than your decision to take actions. All right, let's get on with it. Here's assumption number 1. You are omnipotent God outside of the 3D matrix. You don't have to believe me. This is a great thing about assumptions. You don't have to believe them. But if you accept them and act on them, this is why teachers are important. If you want to learn boxing, for example, you think you know how to fight and you get in the gym and you've got this, Mike Tyson's going to be your coach. And Mike Tyson says, wait a minute, we got to change everything. We got to change your footwork. We got to change your stance. And you say, no, this is what works for me. And he says, hey, look, you want to learn or you don't? So you go, okay, you trust them. You don't believe it. You don't know that that's true for you. You've never experienced it. You trust somebody else who you assume has more knowledge than you. So Mike Tyson says, no, stand like this, no, do like this, no, drive from here, do this. You start doing it, it's uncomfortable, you don't do it right. It doesn't feel good. And he says, nope, that's it, keep going in that direction. And you don't like it. But if you keep doing it, if you keep doing what he says, 6 months later, it feels better. And not only that, you've had a couple of fights and you've won them. Because you did something different, you took an action that wasn't comfortable for you. Starts with the assumption. The assumption is Mike Tyson says you got to stand like this and you don't see the benefit of that. You assume he must know what he's talking about and so I'm going to do it. I'm just going to try it, see what happens. So the assumption is you are God outside of the third dimension. You are omnipotent God. You don't know that now, you don't feel that now. Outside of the third dimension, trust me, you are. Trust me. You'll get there. Remember, I told you. When you get out of the third dimension and you get there, you're going to go, oh, that's right, Mahadeva told me. Yeah, he was right. Trust me, I'm right on this one. You are God outside of the third dimension. All right, so just accept that. That's an assumption. In other words, you're not what religion tells you, which is you're this tiny little created piece of crap that doesn't have any power and doesn't have any choices and can't affect anything. That you're a victim of circumstance. That's an assumption. People asked me yesterday, how is it that some people have such horrible lives? The assumption behind that is that you're so weak that you are a victim of circumstances. You don't have the power to change everything. Things happen to you and you can't stop it. That's an assumption. You change the assumption, I am omnipotent God, which means that I do have power to change everything. I may not understand that yet. I may not know how to completely embody that yet, but I accept that. Start with that assumption. That'll change your actions which will change your beliefs, which will change your actions, which will change your reality. Number 2, the universe must obey your deepest desires. So if you're God, that means you created the universe, right? God created the universe. That means everything in the universe must obey God. It has to. So, I'm telling you that your deepest desires are God. Not your need to be accepted, not your need to not feel like a piece of crap, not your need to get fame, not your need to get approval, not your need to be rich. That has nothing to do with your desires. Zero. Nothing. If you tell me that my sole desire is to become a billionaire, I know you have no clue what your desires are. Your desires will have nothing to do with things that have to do with getting control over others, power over others, approval from other people. Anything that has to do with getting things from outside of you has nothing to do with your desires. Now, we might be stuck with the reality that that's all you're aware of. You can't think of anything beyond that. Well, that just means that you're in a state of trauma. Because all the things that I just mentioned, needing to be rich, needing to be powerful, needing to control others, needing others' approval, these are all symptoms of chronic trauma. So when you're in a state of trauma, you're nowhere near your desires. You don't have the first clue what they are. So it's okay. You know, when somebody said yesterday, I'm slightly annoyed because I don't know my soul desire. And I wish I had said it. I thought of it later. I said, well, that's your problem. If you were absolutely furious because you didn't know what your desires were, then we'd have some place to go. But being slightly annoyed over not knowing your desires, well, you know, not a whole lot that can be done. People don't really accomplish a whole lot when they're slightly annoyed. When you're afraid you're going to die, or when you're so furious that you can't tolerate it anymore, you change. That's the only time people change. When the pain is bad enough, then people are willing to do different things. Until then, people tend not to do anything different, unless they absolutely have to. So this is another reason why I give the clear instructions and people don't follow it. Watch my channel every day, listen to all of my videos, they buy the practices, do the practices. But if you don't listen and you don't take action on the important stuff, nothing's going to change. It's not going to work by osmosis. You know, you want to become Mr. Olympia? Sitting on a park bench across the street from Gold's Gym and watching the bodybuilders work out, you're not going to get bigger muscles by osmosis. It won't work. You have to get your ass in there and you have to start lifting weights. You have to take the action. The universe must obey your deepest desires. Number 3, as a human in 3D, when you follow your desires, 3D obeys you. In the third dimension, when you follow your desires. Now, at no point did I say that once you know your desires, they magically happen. Now, that's what the law of attraction would tell you. That would be like the law of attraction, I would, put it one other. Instead of just saying, create whatever feeling you want, it'll come magically towards you. Another half truth would be, if you know what your desires are and you're completely aware of them and you meditate on them, then they'll happen for you. It's only partially true. The third dimension, that would be true in 5D. In 5D, all you'd have to do is focus on your desire and it would appear in front of you. That's it. That's how it works. Everybody who's had near-death experiences will tell you the same thing. The moment they focus on things, things appear. But you notice they never focus on anything negative. You never hear about somebody having a near-death experience and going to, heaven and then imagining having, a crack pipe. They go in there. Let's see. What if I could beat the hell out of my childhood bully friend? No, they never think like that. They always think something beautiful, like they want to be on the top of that mountain, or they want a flower, or they want a mint julep or something, and it magically appears in front of them. So in 5D, your desires will result in immediate experience of that. But in 3D, it doesn't work like that. But it starts with knowing what your soul desires are. So how do we get to that point? Because what I say here in number 3 is, as a human in 3D, when you follow your desires, 3D obeys you. So I didn't say when you know what your desires are, 3D obeys you. I said when you follow your desires. There's no shortage of people who know what their desires are. But when you ask them, have you done it? Like, the woman who wants to be loved. I mean, that's a soul desire. Wanting to have people love you. I've said, there's a person in my life, in the periphery of my life who does this. And I've said to them, many times I've said, if you just told me, I would bend over backwards. And their response is, I shouldn't have to say anything. You should just know. Ladies, how many of you say that to your men? You have to tell me. But I'm telling you now, if you tell me what you want, I will give it to you. I will go across the universe to get it for you. But you have to ask. I have to know. That's the third dimension. So the third dimension, the matrix of the third dimension, is waiting to obey your command. But until you act on it, they don't know what your command is. You have to follow it. And if you follow it, your soul desire, the universe must give it to you. So it's a law. It's a law of physics. Actions are what's important here. Without actions, everything's meaningless in the third dimension. Number 3 again. Sorry, the second number 3. Apparently I got my numbers wrong. When any being disobeys God, they will be miserable. Right? That's what the Bible tells you. Disobey God, God will curse you with all of these different things. Well, unfortunately, there is some truth to that. When you disobey God, you will experience misery. But let's go back. Who is God? Oh, number 1, you are omnipotent God. Oh, what? How can somebody disobey themselves? This is the mystery, and I'm revealing it to you. And if you can understand this, if you can internalize this, it will solve so many problems. It'll solve all. This right here, I'm telling you, is the cause of all mental illness. This is the cause of all psychological dysfunction. What I'm about to tell you right now. I didn't say the cause of mental disease and dysfunction is being uncomfortable. I never said that. So I'm not getting rid of your discomfort. No, in fact, if you follow my suggestions, there's a very good chance you're going to be more uncomfortable. But if you understand that it's just a feeling, it can't. In fact, feelings can't do anything to you unless you respond to them. That's it. But this is what I'm here to tell you. How is it that you can disobey yourself? How does that happen? Very simple. Your soul is God. Your third dimensional psyche, your brain, your psychological character, your personality, these are not your soul. All of your history with your family, your mom did this, your dad did that, society did this, I was born with this deformity, and you responded to it that way. All those things are not your soul. None of them are. That is your meat suit. That is your third dimensional See if I can find it here. I've got so many pictures on here. That is your third dimensional virtual reality meat suit. Yeah, I'm not finding it. Where is it? Some of you know what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for the picture of the guy who's wearing the... Anyway. The guy who's wearing the 3D goggles. That's your 3D goggles. Within the 3D goggles are all of your emotions, all of your physical sensations, all of your personality traits. Like if you were to list your personality traits, I'm happy, I'm nice, I'm bubbly, I'm inventive, I work hard. Put the negative ones, you're lazy, you're unattractive, you're judgmental, you're impatient, you've got all these, this is who I am. And people say, what you see is what you get. All that stuff is made up. None of that is who you are. But you don't know that because you're living in the third dimension. Just like when you play a three-dimensional video game and you play the dwarf shaman. Well, there are certain things the dwarf shaman can't do in, I don't know, World of Warcraft. I've never played it, I'm guessing. There are certain things he can't do. You know, he doesn't have this spell, he can't do this, he obviously can't, you know, jump over, 10-foot fences, he's a dwarf. But he has the power of the mage and he's got this and he's super strong, but he's not that fast, right? That's his character. You're playing that. You know that's not who you are. But in the game, just because you're 9-foot tall basketball player and you're playing a character who's only 3.5 feet tall, the fact that you're 9 foot tall in real world has no impact on the software that's written into the character in the video game. But you know that. You know it's just a character. You know it's not you. You don't know that here. In your third dimension, you don't know that you are an infinite God playing a game. You don't know that. So you get all wrapped up in it. So those of you who said, like the guy yesterday who said, I'm slightly annoyed because I don't know what my soul desire is. That's just not true. Your soul knows exactly what it wants. Your character in the game doesn't have the first clue. Just like the character, if you play a video game, that character, the program, the computer program that you're manipulating doesn't have any clue about your past. None. It only knows the parameters of the program and that whatever you're manipulating it to do. If you take it a step further, you want to make it like the third dimension. That character thinks he's doing everything. He thinks he's making it all up. He thinks it's real. He's not. He's being manipulated by you. He doesn't know that. So when you don't know what you want, what your true desires are, it means that you are completely focused on what? Your physical survival in this world, which is the most powerful survival instinct, is to be loved and approved of. Why did Mike Tyson knock out all those people? That was how he got love and approval in his mind. Why do billionaires create false housing crises, create false crises in the stock market where people jump off of buildings? And why do psychopathic killers, mass murderers, why do they do that? You're not going to believe it, but the truth is what they want is love. That is their twisted, damaged way of defending against the need to be loved. It all comes from that. So spirituality, what does spirituality always say? The kingdom of God is within you. Go within. Everything you need is inside of you. So these are all metaphors for saying identify with your soul. And when you can do that, you won't need anything. from anybody. You won't, because nothing will give you the fulfillment that you get from being connected to your soul. If you think money's going to make you happy, if you think sex and fame is going to make you happy, listen, I got really bent out of shape in my 20s because I wanted to be the next Brad Pitt. I started a theater company. I wrote and directed and acted in movies and plays, and I did, you don't know it, but I did a little bit of TV and movie when I was out there, and I didn't make it to the big screen, and I was horrifically upset about that because I wanted to be successful, rich, but famous. I wanted people to love me for my, my talent. And I wouldn't trade what I have now for any of that. You couldn't pay me enough to go do that now. I'm much happier now than I would have been. And if I had gotten that, I would have been incredibly miserable. So to understand this, when any being disobeys God, they will be miserable. If you are miserable, it means that you are disobeying the desires of your soul, because your soul is God. There's only one reason to come to earth, and that is to engage with this dichotomy. You are forced by the third dimension to do one of two things. You are, in any given moment, you are either seeking to gain love and approval from things outside of you, or you are seeking to empower your own soul. Those are the only two choices that you have. And you're either feeding one or both of those wolves. And they're constantly with you. That's why I don't think in the third dimension it's possible to achieve what we think enlightenment is. Because the third dimension, the whole point of the third dimension is to balance this dualism. And that's the dualism within you. Your survival instincts, which include being loved and taken care of by other people, approved of, or following your own soul. Now, the problem is when you follow your own soul, you are virtually guaranteed to piss off a lot of people. Why do you think, just recently the whistleblower for the Boeing plant ended up blowing his brains out the night before he was going to testify? He was following his soul. He was following his integrity. His soul told him, I have to tell the truth about this. And it pissed off a lot of people. And you can decide, how it is that some guy who is slated to go and testify the night before, he puts a shotgun in his mouth and blows his brains out. How did that happen? When you have to ask. Well, I think he pissed off some pretty powerful people. As I was getting on here, YouTube threw up a video. I didn't watch it, but I saw the headline that said that somebody who is a groundbreaking scientist in anti-gravitational technology ends up missing. You're going to piss off people if you follow your soul. You're not going to have that experience. You're going to have your dad who wants you to go and work for Wall Street. You're better off in Walmart than Wall Street. Your dad wants you to go work at Wall Street, and you want to become a ballerina. You want to dance in ballet. So your dad's going to get pissed at you. You're following your soul. He's going to say, that's it, I'm cutting you off. You don't get any of my $100 million. So that gets rid of, if you want money, if you think money and status gives you value in the world, you have to give up that fake value of the world and the love and approval of your dad. It's going to be horrifically painful. It's going to be very challenging. And you wonder why people can't decide what they want. It's really tough when the people that you want to love you and accept you the most, those are the ones that are attacking you. They're judging you. They're kicking you out of their life. So you have to go after the joy of your soul, and you will have to go against the world and getting the world's approval to do it. All right. So let's keep going here. When any being disobeys God, they will be miserable. Number 4, when you disobey your soul desires, you will be miserable. You're sick? I know this sounds superficial. I know that, the world and our experience wants to tell you that illness is something that happens to you. Oh, so-and-so got such and such, so-and-so has heart disease, so-and-so has this. Well, that's okay, that happens, and, it's not their fault, and, it's just, go get some medication. Listen, I know what I'm saying sounds superficial. So far, it's turned out to be true. When you go against your soul, you will get angry. When you do not fulfill the desires of your soul, it will make you angry. It will make you angry, and or it will make you sad, and or it will make you confused, and or it will make you feel alone. I don't know Johnny Depp, but when all that thing happened with him and Amber Heard, when I saw that he had to go, everywhere that he had to go, he had to have bodyguards around him. That felt very isolating to me, because and I've talked to people, because I was around that business for a while, and I remember talking to people who were really rich, and they confided to me and said that, I don't have any friends. People are only here because I have money. And I don't know who really likes me. I don't know how many of these people would be in my life if I didn't have money. They're very lonely. Very lonely. Especially when you get everything you want all the time. It isolates you. It makes you very alone. So if you're lonely, you're running away from your soul. I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't have people in your life. You shouldn't seek after love. If you want love, you desperately want to be loved, you should seek after it. I'm not saying not to do that. But I am saying that if that becomes more important to you than finding the soul within you, then you're wasting your time. Okay, so, all right, innocent civilian, here's the problem. You're spamming this, and you're taking up a lot of space. So, anyway, just, give people time to ask questions, because that's what's coming later. I don't want to have to scroll through all those comments. Nothing personal. That's what I like to do on this channel. Eventually, we're going to get to the questions. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. But I can see you're saying some nice things, so I appreciate that. All right, anyway. All right, so let's get back to this. Where were we? I got distracted. I shouldn't do this. I usually take my little thing and I cover up the chat so I don't get distracted by the comments that come through there. Anyway, that's my fault. I apologize. Right, so when you disobey your soul desires, you will be miserable. Number 5, you must first know your soul desires. So that should be the most important thing that you want to know. People go, I want to go find myself. I'm going to go, eat, pray, love movie. I'm going to go up and spend meditating, and go do all that stuff. But the whole point of that is to get yourself out of your current scenario where you're distracted by trying to please everybody else, and you want to go someplace where you don't feel this is why people go on vacation, so they don't have to think about how to please other people. That's why in relationships people say, I need some alone time. It's because they want to figure out what they want instead of getting distracted by trying to please somebody else. So find out what it is that you want, what your soul wants. So how is that? I talk about that in the book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. I tell you what that is, and we'll go over it very briefly, which is that your soul is joy. God is joy. So if you ever get an opportunity to experience God directly, what you're going to experience is pure, unadulterated bliss and joy. So the way that you know something is your soul desire is at some point when you think about it, you will be filled with a bliss. A joy will overtake you. You'll go, oh my God, that would be so great. Now, what's most likely going to happen is that either within a few minutes, sometimes a few seconds, more likely a few hours or maybe a day or two, that bliss will disappear. And you will have written down, I'm going to be a ballerina and I'm going to start a dance company and this is the make me so happy, and you're going to close that and put it down. You're going to go to sleep going, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And you think that that knowledge will be with you forever, and you're going to go to sleep and you're going to wake up the next day and you're going to go, what the hell was I thinking? What the hell? I don't want to go through all the hell to make. I don't have the money for that. My parents are going to do this. My job this. My wife that. The government this. The taxes that. And I can't become a ballerina. What was I thinking? And so I'm here to tell you that when you have that epiphany and you feel the joy when you think about doing it, that's your soul desire. If you can't get to that place, which a lot of people can't, they can't get to the place to figure out what their soul desire is. It means that they're completely, totally focused on the false assumption that their value comes from meeting other people's desires and expectations. That's why people spend 20 hours a week with a tie on in a suit in a job they can't stand. That's why they spend 40 years doing that. Because they say, well, when I finally retire, then I can finally go, right? So if you don't know what your soul desire is, I don't know. I'd have to talk to you, what message you got, but I know generally what the problem is. You're trying to get your value from doing something that isn't you, that's going to make somebody else happy. You want to, more than likely, you want to please your parents, even if they're dead. You still have that program that says, you're only good if you work 20 hours a day, or you're only good if you do this, you're only good, if you're a people pleaser, you don't have any value unless you fix other people. I'm just bumping into my codependence, realizing that if I could just give people the most powerful free stuff in the world, they would get it and their lives would get better. And then people would, subscribe to the 90-day challenge and I wouldn't have to worry about money ever again. That's my codependence. And the truth is that you have the right to seek after and work towards what you want. And my job is to bring it a little bit out of your reach so that you have to work for it. Because if I just hand it to you, you won't appreciate it. You won't use that energy to do what I'm saying, which is to take the actions when you're uncomfortable. So it's not my job to make it easy for you. My job is to point you in the direction and to tell you, climb that hill. But I don't want to. Well, I can't help you. It's hard. Yeah, I know. One foot in front of the other. Go on, you can do it. My legs hurt. Yeah, that's what happens when you climb hills. I'm tired. Yeah, you can rest when you get to the top. That's my job. Number 6, you must take action on them or you are disobeying God. We already talked about that. So you have to figure out what your soul desire is. You have to find that bliss or joy. Maybe it's just you'll get the bliss for a second. Listen, I know I've been teaching people for a while and I know a lot of people really struggle with this, so I'm not minimizing it. And sometimes it takes people a really long time to break through that hamster wheel of trying to please other people and please the world and get their value and, get over their feeling of unworthiness and not knowing how to take actions contrary to that. That's difficult for a lot of people, and that's my job. That's why I'm constantly inviting people to go up to thethunderwizard.com and subscribe as an apprentice, because I can help you with that. And in that scenario, I guarantee you, if you follow my directions consistently, you will accomplish what you want. I mean, you're going to have to keep doing it. At some point, people bump into their resistance and then they leave. Some people bump into their resistance, and to their credit, they keep going and they overcome it. And they continue to grow. But that's the job of a teacher. The job of a teacher is a coach. Like an Olympic coach. You want to be in the Olympics, the coach tells you, push harder, do this, do one more lap, whatever it is. And you want that gold medal because you want it. My job is to help you get what you want. Number 7, when you take fearless action, the universe obeys you every time. Fearless action means that no matter how difficult it is, what you train yourself to do is to take the action. So here's how simple it is. I didn't say it was easy. Here's how simple it is. You find out what your soul desire is, and then you take direct action to accomplish it, no matter how impossible. You keep taking actions, no matter how emotionally, psychologically, physically difficult it is. So you can never say, the example I said, when I asked, why don't you ask people for help? The response, I can't. First off, it's a lie. It's not true. It's just the translation of I can't is, it feels too painful. I'm afraid. I'm deathly afraid to ask. What if somebody rejects me? Then I'll be even in more pain. That's the translation of I can't. The truth is you can. It's just very, very painful, very frightening, very difficult. But those are feelings. And a feeling can't stop you from doing anything. It's just a feeling. There is nothing more powerful than a decision followed by an action. Nothing in the world, God Himself, cannot stop anybody who makes a decision and takes an action. Nothing can stop that. No emotion, even fear. But I'm not saying it's easy. If those guys, the 2 people I mentioned earlier who got offed because they followed their soul and went against the establishment, they'd still be alive today. If they knew that, maybe they would have thought twice about it. Maybe they did know that and they took action anyway. I don't know. So listen, I have the same feelings everybody else does. But when it comes to following your soul desire, if you take the action, regardless of how frightened you are, how sad you are, how confused you are, how painful it is, whatever the uncomfortable feeling is, if you take the action, regardless of the feeling, the universe will provide you with all of the resources to keep doing it. That I guarantee you. Absolute guarantee. I've proven it. So, very quickly, number 1, these are the necessary assumptions. Number 1, you are an omnipotent God outside of 3D matrix. The universe, number 2, must obey your deepest desires. Number 3, as a human in 3D, when you follow your desires, 3D obeys. Number 3 again, when any being disobeys God, they will be miserable. Number 4, when you disobey your soul desires, you will be miserable. Number 5, you must first know your soul desire. Number 6, you must take action on them, meaning your soul desires, or you are disobeying God. Number 7, when you take fearless action, the universe obeys you. But most importantly, when you take action, the universe provides you with all of the resources necessary to keep you going after your soul desire. All right, so I got through all of that. And again, remember, Question your reality. Online classes and personal mentorship at thunderwizard.com. Everything of value is going to be at thunderwizard.com. You can subscribe. You can take a look at all the things you'll be accessing. Those of you that want to work with me personally, if you become an apprentice, one of the things that will happen is that you will have access. So an apprentice has access to the lightning qigong and everything else. So it's really, I'm really giving away, in all seriousness, I am giving away free, however you want to look at it. Either the mentorship is free or the lightning qigong is free. So you get that, you don't pay, if you pay for just a private session with me, you're paying the same, but you don't get access to the 90-day challenge. So if you want to work with me, you can get that and the 90-day challenge, and as long as you keep working with me, that will be available to you. So you can check out all of those things and subscribe at whatever level you want, and you can check out the shop. And if you don't want to subscribe, but you want to learn the Hwar breath meditation, or you want to learn the celestial qigong or whatever, those will be in the shop as well, and more things are coming. You see here 923.thunderwizard.com. That's going away very soon. I've got a couple other things I've got to download and upload to there, which will take me the next couple of days. But the moment that I've done that, this is gone. So if you've been waiting for that, go do it now. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay full price, that was my fault. I should have been charging full price the whole time. All right, that's it. So thunderwizard.com, everything's going there, blah, blah, blah. Those of you who are here from Facebook, subscribe to this channel. This is Thunder Wizard. So subscribe to this channel, like, comment, share it on your social media. All you have to do is, it's real simple. You just take a link from any one of my videos and you put it up on your Facebook or on, wherever you can post it, so more and more people can see what we're doing here. My goal, what I want to do is, one of the things that will still continue to be free is I'm going to be doing the weekly guided interdimensional meditation to bring the solar flash. I'm going to do that my time Sunday, most of you, every Saturday evening. And I encourage you to treat it as a CE5. Go outside if you want and sit in your lounge chair and have your ham radio turned on and have your camera and record it. And I feel pretty confident. There are going to be people, if you do that while I'm guiding you through this, you're going to see some interdimensional spaceships show up. So my plan is to get the whole world doing this. So my hope is to get a bunch of people over here to the thunderwizard.com channel subscribed at the very least, so that every Saturday we've got thousands or millions of people doing this interdimensional meditation to bring the solar flash. So put that in your mind and meditate on that with me. Now, the end result of that, of course, if that happens, I'll never have to be asking people to buy or do anything. I'll be getting so much, traffic and all the things I won't have to worry about it. So, helps everybody out. That's it. We all done? I'm happy to take questions. Let's start from way up here. Jedi Black Knight. Way at the beginning, he says, I'm trying to combine the Maoshan moving sets with the Hwar breath I just purchased. Just wondering, can I do the Hands of Creation in 9 directions? Sure, why not? Again, Jedi Black Knight, you tend to overdo things. You tend to overthink things. Simple is always better. So you don't have to, but I'm not going to stop you if you do that and, the world's open for you and it works for you. If it works, don't fix it. Go ahead and try whatever you want. The easiest thing is always to follow directions first. So follow directions and keep it simple. And then once you've mastered that, then of course you can start improvising whatever you want. Innocent civilian question. Is there actually power in numbers like 22, 44, and 88? Yeah, if you give it power. I'm not against that. Listen, let me explain something to you. There's power in the number 1. There's power in the number 3. Power in the number 5. But if you understand it from a physics perspective, it makes a lot more sense. When you understand it, for instance, Jedi Black Knight is talking, can he do in the 8 directions? So let me tell you, I won't get into this. I'll make some videos and I will upload it to the Patreon channel so you guys can get deep into this. But if you can master this, I can now guarantee you can create portals to higher dimensions. You don't have to wait for an ET to come. You can do it. And I can teach you exactly how to do it. So, for instance, the 3rd dimension. If you were to shine a light on the 3rd dimension, which created a shadow on the 2nd dimension, do you know what you would see if you looked at it? You would see a square. Because the 3rd dimension has 8 reference points. You got the square, you got that, 2, 3, 4, and then you up here, you got 1, 2, 3, 4. You connect all of those. You have this square, that is the 3rd dimension. There are 8 reference points. If you shined a light on that and put it on the 2nd dimension, you would see a square. You would see 4 reference points. So in the 2nd dimension, if you wanted to access the 3rd dimension, you would walk around the square because you'd be walking around the literal shadow of that dimension. The 8-pointed star, which is found everywhere. It is what I call the thunder wheel, which I use for all of the runic stuff. We talk about the thunder wheel. The Aish Yalmer, the Helm of Awe, you see people with that 8-pointed, Norse thing. That is, they don't realize. The reason why that was, according to at least some historical understanding, is that the Norse shamans would trace the 8-pointed star on their 3rd eye, or it would be pointed, it would be drawn on their helmet, which would be right here on their 3rd eye. Why do you think that is? Because the 8-pointed circle is the shadow of the 4th dimension. When a light is shown on the 4th dimension, which has not 8 reference points, but 16, I think. When a light is shown on that, the shadow in the 3rd dimension is an 8-pointed circle. When you start getting into this is why in ancient Jedi Black Knight, you're going to love this. The reason why you look at the Shri Yantra, the reason, before the Middle Ages, there was no such thing in Vedic Hinduism of having a statue of a deity. Yantras, the designs, were the deities. So when you had a yantra on the wall, when you put a yantra and you put things on the yantra, or if you prayed and did your chant to the yantra was the deity. You charge the yantras by doing mantras. Specific mantras have their specific yantra, their specific design. And when you put it in things like copper and you put you etch lines in it, and then you chant the mantra, the sound vibration, which is the deity, goes into the lines on the metal, and it literally creates a portal to another dimension. That's why in Vedic mantra, they say if you chant this mantra and you face this direction and you use this yantra and you chant it 108,000 times, the deity will appear. They're not kidding. Because that deity, that'll be like a transporter beam, and the deity will appear on that, and the deity will say, "What would you like?" And then you get whatever you ask for. There's physics to this. This is a physical science. This isn't made up. So in terms of numbers, do numbers have value? Yeah. In the Bagua, which means 8 gates. Have you ever seen that? The 8-sided thing with the yin-yang symbol, and you see a lot of Tai Chi people wearing it. They don't realize that that Bagua is a portal. Now, the reason why I know that is because the 5-element Maoshan spirit fighting practices that you are doing, Jedi Black Knight, you notice you're always facing one of the 8 directions in a specific order. And you face one of the 8 directions in a specific order, in a specific fashion. You've experienced it, boom, you become one of the elements. You've experienced that. It's because you are literally creating the portal by understanding how to use the number 8. There is a practice I haven't taught, which is a walking practice, which uses the Bagua in a specific thing, and there are 64 steps. So the second dimension only has 4 reference points. The third dimension has 8 reference points. When you get up to 64, you're at the 6th dimension. The Bagua, one of the sacred numbers is 64. So there are value in these numbers. When you do that stepping what is it? What did I say? 64 steps, which I haven't taught anybody yet. When you do the 64 steps, you are literally creating a portal to the 6th dimension. That's why the Maoshan guys had the ability to do things none of the other people could do. None of the other Taoists could do. That's why Maoshan had the ability to fight demons. Because demons are lower dimensional beings. Now do you understand why in higher dimensions there's no such thing as aliens who abduct you and experiment on you and frighten you? Everybody wants to believe that because they're stuck in the 3rd dimension and they can't tell the difference between a 2nd dimensional being showing up and harming them, or a light being coming in and them being flipped out by the higher dimensional. They're so afraid everything's a demon. I get told that all the time. People say you're talking to demons. Well, I'm an exorcist. I've looked demons in the face. I know the difference. You don't. I do. Other people do. So is there power in these numbers? Yes. But they're just symbols until you know how to unlock them. That's why, is it okay that, your phone says 1111? Well, it's going to say that twice a day. 2222, it's going to say that twice a day. Does that mean something? If you want it to mean something, it can. If you have that superstition, can light beings get your attention by showing you those numbers? Yes, but that's not enough. People, you'll watch videos. If you see this number, you are a chosen one. No, you're not a chosen one. It's just somebody's trying to get your attention because you have that, you have that superstition. However, if you know what you're doing, you have access to an 8-pointed circle. You create an 8-pointed ritual circle and you know what you're doing. It's not that the number has any power, it's that you are now playing with interdimensional physics. And that's why in many of the courses that I teach, in my books, I tell you very specific things to do. One thing you should never do is you should never go counterclockwise. Don't do that. You will be very sorry if you do. When you use the 8-sided circle, go to each of the 8 directions, go clockwise. This is why people need teachers. Anyway, that's a huge subject, and you have now inspired me to put up some more things on the shop in the Thunder Wizard site, because if you want to play around with numbers and you want to create portals, I'll teach you how to do it. What else? Innocent civilian. Oh yeah, that's Zinc says, I don't know why you don't have more subscribers. I think 2 things are going on. I think that's my projection of my, devalued self, combined with the fact that, I'm ahead of the curve. Most people aren't ready for this yet. In fact, not only are they not ready for it, they're frightened of it. You know, I got to tell you, the only thing that makes me different, if at all, is that I'm just pig-headed. Go watch my video, How I Became an Extraterrestrial. On that video, you see me on the verge of tears saying, I'm frightened, and I meant that. I had never felt so much fear in my life. One other time I felt that fear, I was in the presence of another multidimensional being. I was in the presence of a Sasquatch who was screaming in a multidimensional way that scared the crap out of me. And the only time I've ever had that much fear was, you know, when I became aware that I was in the presence of just the knowledge that I was in the presence of a 7-foot mantis being that was shifted out of the third dimension, and he was touching my crown chakra. That scared the crap out of me, because that was not part of my understanding of, you know, how the world worked. Now I would love to have it. Now it's a turn on. Oh, I would sit down and I have him come and, yeah, by all means, I can't wait for that. It doesn't frighten me at all. It's beautiful and wonderful. But nobody told me. I didn't know. I didn't have anybody to tell me what to expect out of that. So my brain went crazy and I was scared. But even though it was the most frightening thing I went through, I kept doing it. That's why I'm saying out loud on the video, I'm afraid, because I didn't want my fear to stop me. It's the only difference between me and anybody else. I don't have the most talent in the world. I don't. I'm not the most talented guy. There are people with far more talent than me in all of these things, but, you know, in some things I'm willing to die to experience things. So that's why especially on Facebook, I've got people, you know, tons of trolls telling me I'm following demons, you know, God hates me, God is disgusted with me, you know, you're hurting people, you're lying to people, you know, they're saying all kinds of horrible things because they're afraid. Because, you know, just a 30-second clip of me talking about if you're in the presence of a higher dimensional being, you're going to feel an electromagnetic force and a pressure on your chest. The average person, the thought of that being real is far too frightening. But what's most frightening is that they intuit that what that means is they're going to have to give up their third dimensional attachment to their self-hatred. The most frightening thing in the world for a 3D human is to be loved from a higher dimension. It is incredibly painful. That's when I was saying I was frightened, I was also trying not to sob. And there's another point in that interaction, I said, I don't feel worthy of this interaction. Please let me know. And again, you can see me going forward. I'm not running away. I'm saying, please let me know I'm worthy of this. And then some other stuff happened, which of course flipped me out even more because it was real. But when you go deep into this interdimensional meditation and these beings come to you, the level of love is so overwhelming. And it's most people just aren't ready for it. I barely survived it. And I wanted it. So that's why I think one of the reasons I don't have millions of subscribers, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that. I'm going to get past my self-devaluation and my fear of success is, and, you know, all past life fear of being killed for being a shaman, which happened to me in previous lives. I'm going to get past that. And I am going to do everything in my power to get this message to as many people as I possibly can. And I think the channel's going to start blowing up when people start awakening. We'll see. I don't need that to be true. Let's see. Thundra says, I've healed in miraculous ways and it would have been impossible without having a teacher. You don't know what you're missing out on if you don't have this kind of sacred relationship. It is essential. That is my experience as well. And Thundra is also available for apprentices. Thundra.love. Jedi Black Knight. Okay, he's talking to somebody else. Innocent Civilian, thank you. You deleted all those things. Zinc, question. I'm not an alcoholic, but I drink. Why are you telling me? Right off the bat, I have a hard time believing you. You want to know why? Because people who aren't alcoholic don't say that. You know who does say that? Alcoholics say that. I know. I've got experience, extensive experience in that world. There's a reason why I teach the 12 steps to 5D. You say, I'm not an alcoholic, but I drink 1 or 2 glasses of wine 3 or 4 times a week. Is this okay or not? I don't know. Why are you asking me? I've never said anything about people drinking or not drinking. I mean, I advise people not to get high. I advise people not to get drunk. If you were to ask me my opinion, which isn't my thing, but if you were to ask me, which you kind of are, I would say don't drink any alcohol at all. There's nothing good about it. It doesn't do anything. There's nothing positive about it. If I take you at face value, that you're completely telling me the truth, that you have 1 or 2 glasses of wine 3 or 4 times a week, even if you're not an alcoholic, why would you do that? Why is it such a regular thing? I mean, it sounds like a ritual. I go to the gym anywhere between 3 to 5 days a week, depending on what the surf is happening. I'm either in the gym or surfing 5 days a week. That is a ritual. And the reason why I say it's a ritual is because I know how many times I do it. The average person who, isn't alcoholic and they may or may not have a drink every now and then, if you ask them, how much do you drink? They go, let me see, I had a glass last night, and then, let's see, was it the week before? I think I drank a couple of, they don't know. You know exactly how many drinks you have and how often you have it. The same way I know how many days I go to the gym and how many repetitions I do. It's a ritual. So there's something you're not owning up to there. Even if you're not an alcoholic, you're doing it for some reason, because you wouldn't do it that regularly, that consistently, unless you were trying to escape something. You're getting a buzz at the very least to escape something. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so. And you wouldn't have any guilt about it. You wouldn't have to tell me off the first thing out of your mouth wouldn't be, I'm not an alcoholic, but. I don't know you. I might be wrong. But there have been people who have said exactly what you've said. And when you really ask them, you find out, well, it's maybe 3 or 4 glasses of wine, maybe 4 or 5 times a week. And on the days that I'm not having it, I'm doing it. I'm really trying not to, but I would. I might as well. I'm going to have one anyway. What you said fits into that, which is they're usually, they're minimizing what's really happening. And they tell themselves they're minimizing it. So even if you're not an alcoholic, there sounds like there's an addiction floating around you. Do you want me to lie to you? You asked for my opinion. You say, I try to do 10 minutes of Hool breath most days. Well, instead of trying to do 10 minutes most days, why don't you commit to doing 3 minutes every day? You can do that. 3 minutes, you're getting ready for bed, you're already late, you're up too late, you got 3 minutes. I'll take 3 minutes, it'll help you sleep. Do the Hool breath 3 minutes every day, every night before you go to sleep. And give yourself a test. See if you can go 2 weeks without having 1 glass of wine. If you can do that, no problem, I will believe you that you're not an alcoholic. If you have a problem with it, if it is a problem, then at the very least you've got some kind of an addiction that's running around in there. Maybe you're not an alcoholic, but you're running away from something. You want my honest opinion? I gave it to you. I hope it doesn't hurt your feelings. Tormortu, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Question, what's a good protocol to get in touch with your spirit guides? Great question. Called doing interdimensional meditation. I happen to have a course on that. Where? That's right, you guessed it. thunderwizard.com, 90-day challenge. Do any of the guided interdimensional meditations every night. I've got videos, I've got a short video on how to contact higher dimensional beings. I tell you how to do it in 30 seconds. So the protocol is, it's real simple. I mean, I just do interdimensional, I just lie down and I do it every day. There's all kinds of things you can do. You can go to different planets, you can talk to different beings from different dimensions. You can play around with all that, and I'll be uploading more and more of that stuff later. But what's a good protocol? I wouldn't overthink it. I would just simply do the basic interdimensional meditation, and I would do it, if you want to, I would do it every day. And that's how you'll tap into your spirit guides. You want me to make it more complicated? I can, but it doesn't have to be. You say, what's a good protocol to get in touch with your spirit guides and how can you interact with them? They communicate with me through numbers such as 222, etc. How do I decipher their messages? So you kind of stepped on it, because my next question would have been, so how does 222 mean anything? You see the number 222. How do you know that that's your spirit guide, and how do you know they're communicating? And you yourself don't know what it means. I don't call that communication. Even if as I said earlier, I don't buy into the whole thing. You see 1111 twice a day. If you look at your watch, you're going to see it. A digital clock, you're going to see 1111 twice a day. So if you happen to be looking at, especially if you're thinking about 1111 and what that means, you're going to catch it. You're going to catch it at least once a day, maybe twice a day. And then you're going to go, oh my God, I just saw 1111. And it's because you were looking for it. So instead of spiritualizing it to the point where they have to come to you and they have to give you the fancy numbers, why don't you just own the fact that you want to talk to them? Why do you have to wait around for a number? You don't. I got nothing against signs. I have signs all the time. Signs, they communicate. There will be some. I'll be walking down, my stairs out of my, going to my car, and there will be a mantis bug will fly on me, and I'll go, my mantis being friend is saying hello, and I'll go and meditate, and they'll have something to say to me. So I'm not against signs, but it's, look, what's underneath that is people want to feel special. This is why you see if you see this number, it means you're a chosen one. You don't need to go through all of that. You're already special. You're already a chosen one. And if you see 222, but you don't know what it means, I wouldn't call that a communication. I would call that a sign at best. It's also very possible that you want desperately, and so you look for it, and when those numbers come up, you go, there it is, that's proof. I'm getting talked to by my spirit guides. Well, if that's the best they can do, they need to go to spirit guide class and learn how to communicate to people. But the good news is you can communicate with them extremely deeply. They can literally come to you and communicate concepts and messages. But instead of just waiting around for a sign, you do the meditations. Do the interdimensional meditation. And then you don't have to rely on that. You can, like I do, when I want to talk to them, I lie down, I go into interdimensional meditation, and I can either, they'll come and visit me, or I fly off astrally and I go talk to them. So take responsibility for it. So, good protocol. Very good protocol. Do the interdimensional meditation. There's free ones on the channel. There will always be free ones on the channel. And then there's the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. I have guided interdimensional meditations there. I hope that helps. I was wondering if it interferes with what? Drinking? You want to know if drinking interferes with the whole breath meditation? Is that a direct question? Do you want me to answer that? Yes, it interferes. Anything that messes with your consciousness interferes. Listen, I'm going to tell you guys something that you may not know. So it is true that DMT is the gateway chemical. It is naturally produced in the brain. When you're born as a baby, your brain is filled with DMT. When you die, your brain is filled with DMT. And whenever you have an out-of-body experience, a spiritual experience, and when you dream, your body creates DMT. So when people take massive amounts of DMT, guess what happens? They see light beings and aliens, and the beings will go, oh my God, look at you. Where did you come from? Oh, it's so good to see you. We've got 10 seconds. We're going to, and then they leave. And then they go, I wonder, man, if I went to like another dimension or whatever. Well, they did. But they don't know how to process it because it was done artificially. So, when people, some people aren't going to like this, but here's the truth of it. People do ayahuasca or people do take DMT. They have spiritual experiences and they talk to spirit guides. But what's really happening is that the idea that they're taking a chemical which is going to change them, that is what opens up the portal. Their belief that they've now changed themselves so that they can connect to higher dimensional beings. So if somebody were to ask me, should I do ayahuasca or should I do interdimensional meditation? I would say do interdimensional meditation. I would say do the Maoshan Qigong, all of whatever you want to get your hands on, and do interdimensional meditation and learn to teach your body to release that DMT naturally. Because when I go into interdimensional meditation, I can tell you the DMT is going bonkers in my brain. It's completely natural. My pineal gland is... I've thought a lot of times about, in the dark, filming it to see if I glow, because I know crazy amounts of energy is coming up. But I wouldn't do anything that would get in the way of that. Alcohol is going to screw that up. THC is one of the worst things you can do. It'll just block you up and close you up. You think you're having an experience, but you're not. Any kind of drugs, alcohol, all of that's going to screw it up. But you knew that, which is why you asked. You were just wondering if it interferes? It absolutely interferes. The other thing to know is that people do drugs, people drink, because it mimics the effects of energy work and meditation. The difference is that it numbs you to your feelings when you take chemicals. When you do actual energy work or meditation, it opens you up to your feelings. And so that's challenging and painful and frightening. And so you can't be a spiritual warrior and run away from your feelings. You've got to face them. That's why I have the 12 Steps to 5D on the free channel. It's the most important thing to give you the ability to do what this video is about, which is to take contrary action regardless of your feelings. Whenever you drink alcohol, you're training yourself to let your impulses and your feelings make your decisions. When you smoke cigarettes, when you smoke weed, when you gamble, anything that is addictive, you are training yourself to be controlled by your emotions and your impulses. Which means whenever you have an uncomfortable feeling, you will have less ability to stop yourself from taking that drink or taking that destructive action. And it's the same thing that people do when they destroy relationships, they destroy businesses, they stop working with their teacher, they do something really crazy and stupid and they destroy their relationship with me. It's because they still haven't gotten to the point where they have the discipline to have the uncomfortable feelings and do the most difficult thing. This is the path of the warrior. This is 5D. You want to live in 5D? You got to master that. The most powerful thing anybody can do to shift, make sure that they shift to 5D, is learn how to take contrary action. To take action regardless of the feeling or the impulse, or regardless of how intense the feeling or the impulse is. In other words, I can never say what I repeated that person said when asked, you want people to love you, why didn't you ask? And their response is, I can't. I can never say that. I will never say that. Because I would be blocking myself from the 5D if I said that. All right, let's see, what else? Another question popping up here. Tormor question, what do you think of sadhus, especially devotees of Shiva in India, who use THC in their meditations to connect? First off, why are you asking me? I don't teach that, so why are you asking me about what other people teach? I'm going to answer your question. I have videos. If you go on my channel, let me tell you what to do on my channel. It's what I learned how to do, but then again, I'm from the 70s, and so we learned how to do things like go into the library and open up the thing and look for the books, and we learned how to walk where we wanted to go and pick up a telephone, and we learned how to, people now, if you're born in the 90s or later, people don't know how to do that. They want everybody to tell them. But if you want to find videos on my channel, you can search around on the YouTube Thunder Wizard page, and if you look around for your particular device, there will be some way where you have a pull down message where you can search within the channel. So if you want to, you can search my channel for marijuana or hallucinogens, and you'll see videos come up. So I talk in depth, especially about THC, why THC is so debilitating. But with that in mind, there are people agoris, who follow Shiva, who use THC. The vast majority of them, I'm going to say 98% of them, are just using that as an excuse to get high. The other 2% are doing a specific practice that I don't recommend anybody do. But for some people, if they do it for a short period of time, they might have a breakthrough. If you talk to a real sadhu, they will say that what THC does, what ganja does, is it helps them hyper-focus on something. So they don't do it for the effect. In fact, they know that it's destructive to their body. They know that. So real ones will do that, and then they'll take herbs to counter-effect the damaging effect that it does. So the guys that are smoking ganja all day long, and they're following Shiva, maybe that's their path, but I'm telling you that they're trapped in a cycle it's a false enlightenment. There's nothing real there. People who do it and do it right know that this is a drug that is going to obscure their ability, and it will make them hyper-focus on something. So if you got a problem, you'd be so focused on it, but you create an entire ritual, you get the deities there so that they can help you with it, and then you do that so you can really fix that one problem, and then you don't do it again. Same thing with ayahuasca. There are people that, I remember reading about one girl who had, what is that? Rocky Mountain spotted fever. And she wanted to be healed from that. Now, I could get into the spiritual things about that. How did that happen? Why did it blah, blah, blah. But she had that. So she wanted to heal from it, so she decided she was going to do ayahuasca. She went and did ayahuasca 30 times or 32 times. And guess what? It didn't heal her. Sorry. So because she wasn't understanding what the point of ayahuasca was. It's a tool. Under the right conditions, these tools can be used to achieve very specific things. So what do I think of them? I'm not here to judge them. I wouldn't do it. And I don't think that the majority of them understand it. And I'll go even further than that. So hallucinogens, we talked about ayahuasca, but the Vedas, you know, the majority of them are hymns to Indra. Now, you've heard about soma, which is the drink that Indra drinks, which puts him in a you know, he gets buzzed off of it, and then he does his thing. So to create soma, which nobody knows how it's done anymore, we think it's a combination of cannabis and ephedra and some other herbs, and you mix that all up, and while you're doing that, you do mantras to it, and while you're doing that, you put it under the different moons or the cycles of the thing. So there's all this other stuff that happens to create soma. And they were doing this thousands of years ago, before Kundalini yoga was understood, before, you know, the deep understanding of mantra meditation. They were just in the Veda stage. They were shamans. They were channeling Indra, singing the Vedas. And the priests would drink the soma, which of course would put them in an altered state, which would allow them to tap into Indra and channel. But while they were doing it, they were also consciously, they weren't the ones drinking it. They were drinking it for Indra. So they would drink it so Indra could get high from it. So all of that stuff is different than somebody who's just making up some soma and hanging around with his friends and drinking it and going, yeah, man, let's like have a ritual. Put a log on the fire. Man, I am so wasted right now. Oh my God, did I just say that out loud, man? What? Right? But they stopped doing that. You want to know why they stopped drinking soma and why nobody knows how to make soma? Because they learned how to do Kundalini yoga. They learned how to go deep. They learned how to do mantra on a deeper level. Same thing with Taoists. Ancient Taoists used to use THC, and bear in mind the THC they used way back then was like 3%. And you know, of what it is now. So the stuff that people do now is so far completely removed from, you know, guys walking around and yanking, you know, cannabis weeds out and crushing it up and drinking it or smoking it. I mean, the level was almost nothing compared to what people do now. But the Taoists would use that, and they don't use it anymore. Why? Because they invented Qigong. They invented Negong. So using hallucinogens is something that our ancestors did thousands of years ago because they didn't have the techniques that we have now. So you can fill in the blanks what I think about that. Pyro X question, why skip 4D and go for 5D instead? So Pyro X, thank you for not watching more of my videos, because if you had, you would know. I talk about this all the time. The fourth dimension is time. We live in the third dimension. Without the fourth dimension, we wouldn't be able to move. We would be stuck in one point in time, in one place, forever. So we need the fourth dimension, which allows us to move through. Because you can't move in the third dimension without time. In the fifth dimension, you can move without time. So try and get your mind around that. So this is why, if you hear anybody talking about, I've achieved 4D, I don't know, they've achieved something maybe, but they haven't achieved the fourth dimension, because the fourth dimension is time. We're already in it. So when we go to 5D, you know, we have to skip over 4D because we're already in 4D. That's why they call it space-time. Space is the third dimension. Time is the fourth dimension. We are using both. But in the third dimension, we can only be in one specific place at one specific time. In the fifth dimension, you can be in as many different places simultaneously, doing as many different things, in as many different points in your timeline as you choose. Honest question as opposed to a dishonest. You know, nobody's ever said dishonest question. Although I do accuse people of not being completely honest in their questions. All right, honest question. What do you know of the 13th constellation? Again, you're asking me a bunch of stuff I never teach. I don't know anything about it. Ophiuchus. I talk about Ophiuchus. I did that. It was, you know, it was an exercise I did in, you know, trying to be funny and, you know, rhetorically looking at things. I don't know anything about it. But you seem to know a lot about it. Sorry, I don't know anything about it. All right, is that it? We all done? Thanks, guys. Again, if you appreciate this channel and you want me to stay doing these live streams, babbling on and on and on, then I need you to support the channel. But I never ask for donations. I always provide services in exchange for it. So you do what? Question your reality. Online classes and personal mentorship at thunderwizard.com. Go to thunderwizard.com, subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, and or go to the shop and download whatever practices you want. That will allow me to stay on here for hours and take questions and do what I do. Again, 923.thunderwizard.com is about to go extinct, so it's like $3,000 worth of stuff for almost nothing. Go check it out. That's it for me, my friends. I love you all. By the way, things are crazy because we're heading towards a lunar eclipse, followed by a solar eclipse on the 8th. And we'll have to talk about it, but everything is going bonkers and the whole world is going to begin shifting. Watch what happens. Things are going to get more intense. You thought they were intense. Wait till what happens after this. And that's all, my friends. I love you all. Thank you. If I've done or said anything that's offended anybody, of course, know that it's coming from a deep desire to heal and to help. And so please forgive me if I've done or said anything that anybody finds hurtful or offensive. I'm doing the best to work on myself. Having said that, my friends, if the solar flash don't come, and or if I don't get beamed up to the Starship Enterprise, and or if I don't shift myself out of this third dimensional dualist craziness, if none of those things happen, I will see you all next time, very soon. Thank you very much. Please take very good care of yourselves.